completely agree with him as well. It's like, that's why I said, relationships take time, like this stuff is emotional, it's hard work, it's mind work, it takes time. So 2 weeks, I'm not sure about that, but yeah, good point.
Yeah, because you find if people are going to jump into relationships in a matter of weeks, we have to look at what time of the year this is, because winter, it's been a rough winter, bro. Yeah, I'm telling you, bro, people want cuddle buddies now.
It's an accessory now.
I even remember during the first lockdown, how many people all of a sudden were just getting into relationships from nowhere. Times were tough. People needed to know some context.
Times were tough, yeah.
Hey, yo, culture.
Hey, what's up, guys? How you guys doing? My camera is good. Can you guys see me?
Yeah. Man.
Yeah. Okay. We see you with the Lakers cap.
Yeah, but like now everybody and their mothers is a Warriors fan all of a sudden. It's crazy.
No, I was about to say, is it because Steph won last? Was it last night or the night before? Yeah, I think it was last night, Friday.
Yeah.
The night before, right? Yeah, I was like, what happened there? Is it because he won? Is that why you're putting on your LA Lakers cap?
Man, hey, you gotta swear loyalty to the game, man. These chameleon fans out here busy. 1 minute they're supporting the Phoenix Suns, next thing they're supporting the Warriors, next thing they're supporting the Celtics. I stick to the LA, bro. The purple and yellow. That's it. That's it for me. To be fair,
you gotta make room for a bandwagon for sure.
To be fair, initially, and I'm not gonna lie here, man. I want to lie on people. Initially, back in the day, growing up, I was into the Bulls because of Jordan. Like that was me.
Okay.
Because of Jordan, but of course, as time went, I left with Jordan. So I'm saying I left with them. So I was like,
everybody left with Jordan.
Because Kobe was coming in, Kobe was doing his thing. I was like, hey, Kobe, let's talk. Yeah, but it was all good, man. All good. You can't treat NBA championship like a Champions League. It's different. It's a different You know what I mean? With there you can, it's going down. With NBA, anything can happen. Anything can happen. I was actually vouching for the Suns to take it this season. So I was like, oh, okay. If the Suns or Celtics, maybe it could be. But unfortunately, the Warriors always are like a Manchester City version in the basketball frame. So they just did. They're like City, bro. They just every time just hitting it, and they just keep getting better. It's a crazy thing. Yeah, but no. Yeah. How is you guys are good?
We Gucci.
Yeah, all good. Managed to cook and eat all within the space of an hour. So the rush was the rush.
Yeah, guys. Yeah. Nah, like Ben, I ate earlier as well. So yeah, I ate earlier. So no, let me get my dinner on myself, have a conversation with you guys, But yeah, no, thanks for joining, guys. Thank you for joining. And it's always a pleasure to have you on the panel as well, and for the viewers too coming through. Thank you for being part of another episode of the Bear Cave Session. If you haven't already, kindly like and subscribe to the channel. And yeah, thank you for your support, guys. Yeah, man, guys. Let's get to it. Okay. So, yeah, we've been discussing on and off, but we weren't too sure how we're going to format this topic. But shout out to Ben. Shout out to Ben for the topic. Let me just structure it in a certain way that we could understand the context of our conversation. But obviously, we'll divide it into two type of. Oh, look, he's here again. But last time he didn't make a come up. But now let's hope, man. Like the Warriors, let's hope he'll give us another. Oh man, there's more peeps coming in, so let's wait up for them and let's see what's up. Hopefully, Mangaliso will be able to join us and have a conversation.
Mustn't be shy. The man mustn't be shy.
I think he got camera shy the first time around. So
yeah, I think Martin is too intimidating. Martin, you
Ooh.
gotta,
Yeah, that voice, no, is
you
that?
gotta work on that voice, brother. Or maybe like maybe
Hey,
you gotta
man.
make that face more friendly. Smile a
Bro,
little
don't
bit.
hate on God. Don't hate on God, bro. Don't hate on God. You know, let God do what God do, bro.
Somebody
You can't
said,
hate on God.
somebody who heard your voice, man. Somebody said like your voice sound like Morgan Freeman on some tip. I was like, what?
Yeah.
I forgot who I was
Yeah.
having this conversation with. Somebody
Mhm.
I know who had mentioned. Like, no, it sounds like a Morgan Freeman a little bit. I'm like, okay, I see.
Mhm.
These
You
are
know,
the guys that take out girls. These ones.
You know what I'm saying? You know what? You know what?
that's
No
why he
joke.
didn't tell me. Nah,
No
that's
joke.
why Alfred didn't tell me. Was that somebody a woman? I just want to know. Like, just check.
Yeah, it was late. Yeah, but I was
Right.
I was keeping that comment on ice. So
I told you, see, this is why he didn't tell me, because he knows he would have lost her to me. But anyway, it's all good. Fair play.
yeah. How you doing, Chloe? You good?
Hey, yeah, I'm good, thanks.
Nice to meet. Nice.
How is everyone?
No, we're good.
Good.
I'm good.
Can't complain.
Good, Chloe.
Yeah. Now, see, Manga is still trying to cover. Manga, blink twice if you're there, man.
He's not gonna blink all buttons here.
Doesn't know what happens. He doesn't know what happens in this house.
Maybe I should duck out of the group for like 5 minutes and let him come on and then come back on. You know.
Hey, Mangalisa, this is the group. What's going on, fam?
Hey, man, what's up, guys?
What's up? How you doing, fam?
Hey, no, I'm good, man. Sorry for joining late. My
No,
internet is quite unstable at the moment. I don't know what's going on.
no worries, fam. No, you're just on time, man. You're just on time. Man.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good to have you, man. Like last time you made an appearance, but there was no you know you were on the bench, but you didn't come on the field, man. Come on
It was a
now.
ghost appearance.
Yeah, man. But it's good to have everybody here today. Thank you once again. Like I said, now that we have everybody in line, everyone can hear. Ben, I hope you just swipe right and just make sure that you see everyone. If you need something, just swipe right.
I want to try something. But yeah, no, if it doesn't work, then I'll.
Okay. All right, cool.
Swipe us,
Yeah,
swipe
and
us,
it's the Zoom,
swipe us.
and it's the,
You won't bite.
yeah, and it's the Zoom version of, and it's the Zoom version of swipe right, Ben, not Tinder, ne? Just putting that out there.
Yeah, no,
maybe Ben doesn't want to swipe right because he doesn't want to commit to us. It's okay, bro.
You know what I'm saying?
It's okay. Please commit.
Yeah.
Oh man.
It's all right. It's all right.
No
We're
way.
good people, Ben. We're good people.
Okay,
Yeah.
so here, am I duplicated?
Yeah, I see another.
But Manga was also in there duplicated, so it's fine. I'm gonna duplicate.
All right, welcome, guys. Like I said, let's get to it. So today's topic, like I said, shout out to Ben once again. We're gonna get straight to it. So you guys, please feel free to whoever wants to start first in terms of the topic, and then yeah, we can just get straight to it and have your thoughts. All right, so the code. We're gonna talk about the code. How long should one wait before moving on from the previous relationship? And is there an acceptable time frame? So once again, in terms of the code, how long should one wait before moving on from the previous relationship? And is there an acceptable time frame on how long it will take before you get into another one?
No way. So for me, at the time this topic came up, obviously, when it did come up, I was talking to one of the mates. I rate, it depends on the seriousness of the relationship. One, that's something to consider. And then also for me, the simple one is, as long as you guys were together, I think that's generally a fair assessment of how long one should wait. If you guys were together for a month, then, like a month more or less is fair to wait, But if you're together for like 2 years or so, clearly there was more involved and, the relationship might have meant a bit more to that person. And just to make sure that, new feelings are actually substantial, I think, yeah, 2 years is a fair time to wait as well. But again, it depends on how serious the relationship was. I mean, people can have 2 years of absolutely nothing, just, trying to figure themselves out. Or sometimes people are together just to be together, People are out here being scared of being alone. So yeah, I think that's the criteria that I use.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like to use. Okay, go on, Bo. Go on.
No stress, brother. So I was gonna say that like it's a hard thing. Like you can't put a time frame to it. It kind of speaks to what we spoke about previously, that I think once you feel like you're sufficiently like healed, depending on how serious that relationship was, that's probably the right time. Like when you're at a point where even like mentioning your previous partner's name like doesn't actually bring up any feelings in you, then you're probably okay. You've probably moved on by then. The point where you're neutral, like you don't have anger, you don't have hate, you don't still want to see them, you don't long for them, you just have a neutral feeling, then you're probably good, right? So that could take however long, 6 months, a year, 2 weeks, whatever, right? So yeah, that's my perspective.
Yeah, and just to add to that, and I'm so glad you went first because you did kind of expand on what I was thinking. The word for me is healing. Um, Again, we don't just heal from relationships that went bad, but we also heal from relationships that went good, but maybe the goodness didn't last forever, right? So you're gonna need some time to heal from that and to give yourself a fresh perspective, because on the back end of a relationship, a lot of people can say a lot of different things, but that's like the first month, 3 months, maybe even 6 months, maybe sometimes with other people a year, where you're not so sober. Like a lot of what you're saying is still influenced by your experience, right? So if you're out here saying, oh my goodness, I don't trust girls anymore, I don't trust this gender anymore, a lot of that is influenced by your experience. And so you want to give yourself a chance, especially if you intend on being in another relationship, a chance to heal and a chance to build yourself a fresh perspective. And maybe there is an acceptable time frame. I hear 6 months being thrown around a lot. I hear some people even going for a year. But however long it takes, whoever you are, however long it takes is good enough.
I think I'm a bit confused also, actually. So the topic, just hit me with the topic again there, Fonzo.
Said, how long should one wait before moving on from their previous relationship? And what to you, what is an acceptable time frame?
Oh, okay. No, I got it all wrong.
What is
I got it all
I wouldn't
wrong.
say acceptable, I would say reasonable rather. What is a reasonable time frame? We put reasonable.
Okay, okay.
Yeah,
Manga, you
I'm
want
gonna
to
jump.
weigh in there?
Yeah, I was gonna say I think something that also um, depends also like what happened in the relationship. Was it long distance? Was there cheating? And this is something that unfortunately a lot of ladies have to deal with. Like was there instances of GBV as well? You wouldn't necessarily want someone like that to jump in like 3 or 6 months later on, because sometimes you might need to take like a whole year to repair like a lot of trauma and self-esteem that goes into that. So sometimes depending on what happened with the relationship can also that can also like adjust how long is so-called like a reasonable time. So if like maybe like the two of you just at some point find out that you guys want different things, let's just say, for example, someone's career is advancing and the other one wants to settle down and it's not really looking like it's a good time, then I don't think that situation should take that long to move on. Maybe I would even say maybe like a couple of weeks. Just you hit the clubs, you hit the bars, you go out with your boys, your friends, your girls, or whatever. You do something, and then you just see who you meet, and you take it from there. But if like something kind of bad happened, then I think you just definitely need to take some time, because uh, that like unhealed trauma can lead to triggers in the next relationship. And like how people can jump jump to conclusions and make assumptions and then treat it as facts, because it's like it's that preventative not wanting to let it happen again. So as soon as you see signs without even having proof, you'll just say, oh, okay, this is it. Nope, I'm out. And then it just causes issues like that. And then maybe if you meet the person years later, you find out what really happened. And then you think, oh, ish, if only we had talked this out, that sort of thing. So it depends what happened.
Mm.
Cool.
I agree with that, to be fair. I think there's always going to be one person usually in the relationship that moves on before the other person, usually. And also it depends if there was any traumatic reason. That would obviously, there's no time scale on how quick or soon a person can or should move on. It's totally up to that individual's healing process. In some relationships where you may not even get the closure you need, but that can be also difficult for some people if they've not got the closure. So there's no rule to it. Everyone's different, but I would say in terms of any traumatic breakup, then yeah, it's best to wait till you've healed.
All right. Another thing I wanted to put onto that is that I absolutely agree with most of you in this situation. Is circumstances happen. It depends on the situation, and it depends how it depends how you dealt with it in your own. But as well, having to be in that frame of mind when you have gone through a bad or rough situation where you had to break up with somebody, your criteria does change. So now, what you accepted in your previous relationship going in tends to change in the next because of, say, past trauma, which is fair. And of course, you're going to, if you're in an abusive relationship, you have to find somebody who is not abusive. Use discernment. But on the other hand, as well, there are certain things when it comes to that it changes your criteria. And that also takes take into consideration the time frame one goes into the next relationship with, because number one, you have to heal yourself. You have to go through that process of healing. And then number two, you have to look into yourself. And number three, you have to pretty much change now how you look at dating differently, because trauma is trauma. You know what I mean? Hurt is hurt, and it will change you in many ways, whether it be negative way or positive. It does change a person, to be fair. So I don't know what you guys say 100%, but I would disagree with Manga when he said a couple of weeks, because yes, there are people who run a couple of weeks. However, a couple of weeks, it doesn't cut a long time, because remember, you probably have memories with this person. And to erase that type of thing, it's 2 weeks later, yes, you can go out. You can go out for fun. But it's still, like I said, your criteria starts to change, but also you're in conflict now, because now you're 2 weeks later. How quick does it take for you to actually go through a character change within oneself and change your criteria of what you're looking for in your next person? Yeah.
Yeah, I
That
mean,
brings me. Oh, sorry, go on.
yeah. I hear what you're saying, Fonzo, and I completely agree. I think the criteria does tend to change in one way or another when you move on to a different relationship. That's almost your way of saying to yourself, I don't want to make the same mistakes, so I don't want to go through what I went through in the previous relationship. But part of that, and I'm not going to say the word but I'll rather say and, part of that is also looking into yourself as to why was this your criteria in the first place? Why did you gravitate towards this type of person? And if the reason is a healthy reason, then by all means keep it. But I found that even in my own experience, the reason why I picked this type of person either had to do with me falling in love with an idea that they sold me or I sold myself about them, or I gravitated towards who they are, but who they are was not good for me. And so, the onus was on me to look at myself and be like, hey, listen, you're getting attracted to all the wrong things over here, right? Because just because something is attractive does not necessarily mean it's healthy, right? And so the criteria can change or the criteria can stay the same. But I think I just want to stress that in changing the criteria, let's not say to people or even say to ourselves, the only thing informing your change of criteria is the other person, right? The only thing that is changing whether or not you move on this way or that way is all on the other person. Because what that then leads to is everybody's looking at my ex and saying my ex is the reason, this is this way. My ex is the reason that is that way. But nobody ever says, no, you know what? I was toxic too. Like, I know they were messed up, but I had a bit of mess in me too. Or even if they were messed up and I was an angel, I don't think I responded best to it. Like when they went bad, I went down to worse, right? So that self-analysis and that self-assessment, I think, is important, because it'll either lead to you picking the same criteria in a good way, or it'll lead to you changing. But at least the change is not all based on, the other person and zero accountability for yourself. You know what I'm saying?
Hence why I added in that number 2, you look into yourself, reflection. Anyone else want to weigh in there? Thank you, Mom.
I had one thing to say, like, also another thing, when you say moving on, there's moving on and there's moving on, because just because someone's out there dating or seemingly moved on, don't mean they've moved on. So it's like, I mean, it may be okay to get that out there, date, get a bit of confidence back up, get used to being more socially active and so on, and dating just to date, not sleeping with people, not, going too far. That's important as well to do. But at the same time, like, yeah, for example, rebounds, like, know exactly what you're dating for. Because like I say, some people can look as if they're dating or moved on when they really haven't. So there's moving on, there's moving on.
And then there's also just one thing I want to say to support Manga as well. I think, like, it might have shook you when he said 2 weeks, but if you think about it, there are a lot of relationships out there where the relationship itself, right, has been over, but the people were just going through the motions, right? They were just trying to keep things together, right? So just because they finally put a date to the end of their relationship, it doesn't mean now when someone decides to date 2 weeks later, they're committing some kind of crime or, they've done the worst thing ever. Because in terms of the actual relationship, their feelings might have ended months ago, right? They might have been out of it for a long time. It could have been a year, right? That they've actually not been into this person. So even if someone goes into something serious, and I'm not saying they should, even if they do though, we shouldn't be so critical of a person when they do that, because again, we don't know the circumstances. We don't know where they are as a person. We don't know how their heart is feeling. They actually, in that 2 weeks, they might be more ready for a brand new relationship than someone who's been healing for 6 months, right? So these things are very, very hard to judge.
Can I say something about that as well? And this is not in opposition to what Bo or Manga are saying. I just got a thought in thinking about it. Like, if I exit a relationship, for however long I had been in the relationship before, and we exit, we go our separate ways, and I get into a new relationship within a week or two, then I think the point of contention is this: if you manage to move on in 2 weeks, Bo, then the relationship you've moved on into was probably cooking a little while before the current relationship ended. You know what I'm saying? It's like, I don't know if it's just me, but
provided that I knew that person. Provided that I knew that person.
Dog, you
because I don't
agree with that one.
So you hear something, I was thinking the same thing. you know. So
Bro,
Right?
you're moving funny,
no,
man.
No, because I was just about to say, I don't know if it's just me, but relationships take time, Like to get someone to commit to you for the full term, that takes time. Like, yeah, so to do it in 2 weeks is like, these people might have been talking before we ended, actually. Like they might have been in each other's DMs. So I'm just saying, look out for that as a bit of a red flag, because sometimes it is valid. Other times, yes, I think especially in the case of somebody who puts themselves out into the public spotlight, like if somebody goes out a lot, they're most likely to meet a couple of people, right? And so within 2 weeks, probably they can move on. But other times, this was cooking. This was marinating way before.
I believe that, like, definitely if 2-3 months down the line, she's already on her way out. Right. She's when before, like, this is a conversation I had with Chloe on a one-on-one, actually, coincidentally, and I said it is like, if a shorty is going to break up with you, just be aware that it might have not been on that day, but long prior to maybe 2-3 months before you all broke up, that she already made up her mind and is already on her way out. So, of course,
women are savage like that.
My nigga. So on top of
that is not savage. We do the most to keep it together. Like we give you more chances to communicate. Most women anyway, like most of the time, it's the girl trying to give it more chances. And like I've been there when it's like you for 6 to 9 months you're expressing, can we fix this? This is what we need to fix. And it's like, okay, well, you've not done it in nearly a year. Like, where do I draw the line in the sand?
I'll ask you something, Chloe, and please, for everyone who watches this, guys, this is not a type to the one female on the panel. We're actually being very open-minded here for asking questions, right? So I'm saying is that from a lady's perspective, is that they 9 times or 50% of the time there is another guy involved, correct? Because
no, I wouldn't say it's another guy involved. I would say girls are more often ready to move on sooner than the guy, because like I said, more of the time we're the ones that's trying to give it another chance, trying to salvage the relationship. That's why. I wouldn't say it's got to do with anybody else. I would say we're more ready because we've emotionally tried to reach out to you to work.
But before Bowen can go, I'll let you guys go on now, because I want you to miss this, because as well, how insistent are you on fixing those changes? Because I say it's always circumstantial. It's not always linear. There are circumstances that change. But my thing is that how much of a commitment, because you want to be with the guy, of course, but you want him to change certain things in the relationship you're not happy with, right? But now, how far is the support structure? Are you rolling the game with one dice or are you rolling with 2? You understand? Because sometimes people, when we commit, we want something to change. 9 times out of the 10, we kind of like, okay, you're gonna change, and then we close the door hoping for something to happen, and then we open again, but this is still the same thing. You're going in there, you're making sure you shuffle shit around and do the business. I don't know. What do you think of this?
Man, Alfonso, I have to defend our girl Chloe now, man. And you like these dangerous statements.
I keep telling you, man, he
he likes making these dangerous statements. Look, man, you know what? I will not deny that, and this is a human thing, it's not just women.
Yes.
Like, people keep their options open. It's not just women, right? Men also keep their options open. Right. So when the relationship ends, you do get instances where, hey, okay, this dude's got a new girlfriend now. The same way, like, you get shocked when a woman has a new man, right? People keep their options open. I'm not saying everyone does this, but it's unfair to say that it's only women who have like 20 guys in the DMs and they're keeping this guy there, letting him marinate in case something happens here, and then there's the backup with the backup. Like, nah, man.
Can I add to that? Like, you bring up a good point. That is a stereotype. I think maybe when women are younger and before they get married, there may be a slight bit of more of a tendency towards that. But when you talk to men who are on their second or third wives, those are the ones that have been cooking. When you compare to men and women, those second wives and third wives, those are usually, not always, they're quite often. But anyway, that's another time.
Yeah, wait, Fonzo.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I just want to clarify something like what I meant when I said you can move on even within like a couple of weeks. What I meant is I'm not saying like you get into a whole new relationship, as in like you're holding hands, selfies, and relationship status changes. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying like maybe if in a couple of weeks you're out somewhere and you strike up conversation with someone, and then you're like, oh, okay, no, cool. Let's exchange numbers and go out and see where it goes. I'm talking about that. But then even that process, it'll still take, maybe at least 2 months, or I don't know how people move, but maybe like a month minimum of that process. And then maybe you can decide if you want to get into another relationship or not. But I'm not saying like 2 weeks later, a whole new girlfriend, like, oh, that's a different story altogether.
I got you on that one.
Yeah.
Right.
I completely agree with him as well. It's like, that's why I said, relationships take time, like this stuff is emotional, it's hard work, it's mind work, it takes time. So 2 weeks, I'm not sure about that, but yeah, good point.
Yeah, because you find if people are going to jump into relationships in a matter of weeks, you have to look at what time of the year this is, because winter, it's been a rough winter, bro. I'm telling you, bro, people want cuddle buddies now.
It's an accessory
even
now.
Remember during the first lockdown, how many people all of a sudden were just getting into relationships from nowhere? Times were tough. People needed to know some context.
That's tough, yeah. No, you great point. The time context of it is very, very important. Oh my goodness,
definitely.
I would have totally missed that.
It's winter right now, man. So of course the people are gonna be saying something right there. So yeah, absolutely, gotcha.
That's where all the lockdown babies came from.
Yeah.
Exactly.
People were lonely all of a Sunday, bro. Once lockdown came,
people are out here with 2-year-olds now.
What is the whole theory that came? I know my word. I know my word throughout the window, bro. Yeah. My word, bro. Ben, what were you saying, fam? Go in, brother.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
But then this all right.
Yeah. No. Continue.
Continue. Okay. Go for it, Martin.
No, because I was about to. Because I was about to ask. In that case, since it's winter, Fonzo, does that mean there's somebody behind that door that we haven't seen on camera? We're just checking.
Wow.
That's all.
No.
Okay.
We just checked.
All right. So, guys, I figured out at least 3 different types of women, right? So you get, okay, so there's the revenge woman, right? Like the revenge breakup. You know that one where they break up with you and then they go after like a certain someone that they know is gonna get to you, like in your circle. All right, that's the one. And then you get the monkey bar one. I don't know if you guys are familiar with this monkey bar theory. So the monkey bar, that's the one where there's the guy in the tuck, like in the back somewhere. Like whilst they're still breaking up with you, they'll be grooming that guy and then slowly starting things off and giving that guy like solid signals that I'm coming that side. That's the monkey bar chick. And then there's this chick, and this one is terrifying, dog. This is the one that I think Chloe's referring to. There's the girl that'll give you signals towards the end of the relationship. And it'll be in the form of maybe she'll complain less. She'll be less involved. She'll let you do what you do. She'll allow the buffoonery. She won't complain or nag as much. They'll slowly like turn it down. Like, yeah, dog, slowly. And this is where the rubber band theory comes in. So the theory goes, if two people are stretching out a rubber band from two different ends, the one who lets go is gonna have lesser heartbreak and feel less pain. So that woman like would essentially be like working herself up to that point. And then when you'll be there stuck on stupid one day when she finally says like I'm out. So that's my theory. Like those are the three type of breakups that I am familiar with, or that I've seen. Obviously there's more. Nothing is conclusive, but yeah, just to add some more context to that's my 2 cents.
Right. But it's mostly the monkey bar there.
Alfonso. There's some deep trauma coming out here, bro. I feel like
there's trauma, dog.
There's trauma here.
Who hurt you? Who hurt you?
I'm Incredible Hulk in the shit, yes.
I feel like one of these days, the culprit needs to be invited here. We need to just have a nice tribal council with the culprit.
Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Let's continue with our podcasting, bro, as per usual. Let's not change the schedule now. All right, no, I get what you're saying, definitely. I was just playing around there with the monkey bar types. It's not always that way. I do get it that definitely when you are when there's no complaining, there's nothing being said, where you come back home at 11 o'clock, now you're like out at till 2 and nothing's being said, like there's that silent treatment that comes out. It happens, like for real. That's when somebody's like literally done. Our done is different from women's done. You know what I'm saying? Because our done, and like you said, Ben, our done tends to put us stuck on stupid. You're absolutely right. But it could go both ways as well. It could go both ways. So people are different. Once you're in a point where you're not doing anything, there's no commitment to explore your options. Pretty much cut set. It would be so. Anyone else want to weigh in?
Yeah, as you said, I mean, it can be a combination. The monkey bar and the silent chick, that slow cutoff into the monkey bar.
But usually, like when a girl does the whole silent treatment thing, that's actually after vocalizing, issues that need to be resolved.
No.
I mean, if it goes both ways, whether it's the guy or the girl, but I think if anyone would take a relationship seriously, then they would at least give that person the chance to know, this is what I'm having an issue with, this is how you need to resolve it, or we need to resolve it. So like if someone just doesn't, like, by the time she's giving you the silent treatment, it's probably after she's complained so many times about that said issue.
So can I ask, at that silent, sorry, Bo, at that point where they give you the silent treatment, right? Is there redemption? Like, is there still hope, or have they like completely is it done? And if so, then what's the point of prolonging?
Yeah.
Is she monkey barring? Is she preparing the exit? Is she opening up the side bank account?
What tends to happen,
the
Ben?
point of
What tends to happen, Ben? You know what it is? She's waiting for you to break up with her. She's waiting for you to break up with her, so that there's no.
I was gonna say that.
There's no. There's no guilt or accountability on one side. She's waiting for you to pull the trigger. There's a gun right there, Russian roulette, bro. One bullet is spinning on the table, bro. It's pointing at you. You gotta take that weapon and utilize it. You're both staring at the same thing. So I'm just saying.
Oh, Fonzo.
Yeah.
No, but Fonzo, you see now.
What you'll find, Fonzo, is...
Hold on, Manga. Let Bo weigh in quickly, then I'll let you say what's
Okay.
No, I wanted to say though, like to counter Chloe a bit is like, it's also, it's like, it's a bit unfair to also assume that men don't have things that we also want them to, like ladies to work on, right? Because there are a lot of situations where the woman also doesn't listen when you say, look, I actually don't like when you do this. Can you like modify this? Can we work on this? Can we work on that? It's a very like we always tend to have this thing where like it's the man who doesn't listen. The man doesn't want to work on his character. The man doesn't want to do that, you know. But they're like, that's why it's called a relationship. You know, there's pulling, there's pushing and pulling, you know, there's compromise, there's all of that. Both of you need to put the work in. You know, it can't just be the man who's putting the work in. The woman also needs to put the work in, right? So that's where I say, like, you know, let's also be fair to the men, you know?
Yeah, because what I was gonna say to Chloe in response is the only, I'm not gonna say the only problem. Again, I'll just use point of contention that I have with what she's saying is that, you know, it assumes that the man is always at fault. Why the woman is, you know, says something and then she goes quiet, and like it assumes that, oh, every single relationship, like if it's gonna end, it's probably ending on the part of the man. Whereas there are some very good men out there, and maybe I'm speaking for a minority, who are dealing with very problematic women, and are communicating, hey, yo, you know, can we try and fix this? Can we try and do it this way? Can we try and do it that way? If possible, can we even involve a third party, you know, one who is unbiased and, you know, allows us to not necessarily feel isolated in trying to deal with our own issues. And, you know,
Which guy is
women
this
just
that's
keep
bringing
doing what
in
they do.
third parties?
No,
When
come
you
on,
said
come on.
third parties, I always
No,
thought,
you lost me
"Ooh,
there.
kind of third
No.
I genuinely think, no, listen, I genuinely think there's some guys. I genuinely think there are some people, and maybe I'm talking for a minority. I admit, minority, maybe even married men who can say, "Hey, listen, if we need to go for couples counseling, let's go for couples counseling." Or if it's not even anything deep, professional or therapeutic or anything like that, if we have a trusted friend, like if Alfred is our go-to guy, he knows both of us, and he can, you know, maybe talk us out of this or maybe help us out, then of course, like I don't know, like is that unusual? I don't know if it's
No,
unusual.
it's not. You gotta look for if you wanna resolve, you gotta look for different streams of advice. Just the correct advice, not the
Yeah.
wrong advice. You won't ask your you want to ask your your damaged divorced friend to give you advice. You know what I mean? You'd rather get somebody who has a neutral type of mindset that knows both of you, that obviously can have a little bit of a gauge on both how you are, your flaws, your pros, your cons. Yeah, it's fair. Go in, bro.
Also, just I want to add to that you also need to take those things with a pinch of salt, right? Yes, bring in third parties, you know, get their advice, get their perspective, all of that. Because yes, you know, getting a neutral perspective is helpful in any situation, even in your workplace, whatever it is, right? But I say take it with a pinch of salt because that can also be dangerous. And I've seen like, okay, now I'm going to go in on women. I've seen women consulting their friends and saying, my man does this and that, and he doesn't do this and that. What do you think I should do? Nah, 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 nah. And like, yes, there are definitely things that they can definitely jump in on. The same, like we men do the same thing where we'll consult our boys about certain things and we'll actually get the worst advice ever, but we'll take it anyway because yeah, we just wanted to vent and that person told us what we wanted to hear, right? And then you go implement that poor advice and then it actually is detrimental to your relationship, right? So I've always been a big advocate in the thing like, yes, fine, let other people give you more ideas, but ultimately you know your partner best the same way they know you best. So you guys need to find a way to also figure each other out and figure out your relationship as well.
All right, Bob. Martin, can I just ask, like, what does this look like? This third party, like, so you, okay, so with Bo, I understand, like that's very common. Of course, we consult our friends and we, you know, we get third party advice. However, that's completely different to a third party coming in on some counseling or like interacting with the both of you. So you telling me like you'd say, Fonzo, let's say you and Chloe are a couple, right? Would you both go and consult with Fonzo and have like a three-way conversation? that doesn't happen. It's normally every partner goes off to their own entourages to go hear what they want to hear, and then they come back and try and implement. Yeah.
Yeah, which is why I put an emphasis on, and I made it very short, like an emphasis on married couples, because I feel like your ability to get counsel from a third person is probably determined by how serious your relationship is or how deep within the relationship you are, right? Because I don't necessarily see a typical boyfriend girlfriend situation where we're living for the moment, we're just here for the moment, we're not really making any serious intense plans to be together forever, going to sit in front of a therapist or a pastor or any trusted counselor. I don't necessarily see that happening. But perhaps if our relationship, we know that we're committing for the long term and we're going at this forever, then at some point we might run out of knowledge as to how to deal with each other or how to deal with this specific situation. Hence, we call Alfred. And Alfred in this case is married with kids, if of course we're dealing with a third person, right? So he's got experience at that level. And again, he's impartial. He's not going to be biased. He's not going to take the homie side. He's not going to take the woman's side. And very typically, it's somebody who's older than us, somebody who we say yes sir, no sir to. You get what I'm saying? So it's not necessarily like, yes, there are mature friends that we can go to, but again, it's like counseling and mentorship doesn't necessarily happen at your level. It usually comes from above, right? So again, I don't know if that answers your question as far as how that looks like and the context with which that actually happens. Or are you still uncomfortable with the idea of the third person?
Oh, okay. No, I'm not. No, that makes more sense. Like I can see, let's say if the male is the one who initiates, it would most likely be with like the woman's sister or the woman's mother or his mother, or like, like in that context, it makes sense. I just thought you meant with regards to friends or like a therapist. Very unlikely for a guy to do that. Yeah.
Very unlikely. And I mean, as Fonzo said, it's like you got to be careful who or where you seek your counsel. It's like sometimes, or not even sometimes, but all the time, the idea of consulting family, conceptually, it sounds good. Conceptually. Why? Because family these are the people who are supposed to be on your side, right? These are the people who want the best for you. They're the closest to you. They know you. But we all know that that's a conceptual idea. Family don't always want the best for you, right? It doesn't always have the best intention. Sometimes, again, I've been, and I've not been in because I'm not married, but I've seen situations where literally in my own family, the husband goes to consult the family, and then it's a neutral issue, or maybe even it's his problem, and she takes it to the family. And what does the family do? The family supports their son. The family takes their daughter's side. Right? And now you've got two families who are on opposite ends when we're supposed to be on the end that is right. And it's like, sometimes it's not necessarily a good thing. So you want to go where there's wisdom, and at the same time there is impartiality, that lack of bias, so to speak.
And both person need to endorse this person. It can't just be you enforcing, saying, listen to said person. They have to also be open to listening to that person.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Unless they have an issue, but
Yeah, in which case then that person won't work. But yeah.
Facts. We agree.
Yeah. Mango, what say you, fam? Are you want to jump in there?
Manga's giving us the tour of the crib.
No, I'm just kidding. My battery's about to die. I'm just looking for the charger. But now, what I would say is that it is also risky to get families involved because everybody's always going to side with their relatives. I mean, you rarely see, because if you think about it, right, when families introduce themselves at the wedding, it's almost like the son is a representative of us as a family collectively to represent what we stand for, and the daughter's doing the same thing. So when they come to each other with issues, no family is going to be ready to be the first one to say, okay, look, there's mess ups on our side, because then it's a bad look for the family. So it's going to be literally like a family feud where everyone's going to look to say, oh, well, your daughter didn't this and your son didn't that. And, oh, my son wouldn't this if your daughter didn't that. And can very easily go sour. So it's best to leave family out of it, I think.
Yeah.
Also, it's imperative to note, and based on what Martin and what you said, what both said, you gotta have a source that is very impartial. You know, the problem is that, and like again, it goes back to this point where we have our relationship issues. We'll go to the closest friend, right? And our friends won't necessarily tell us the truth 100% of the time. They won't necessarily be as transparent as they should be because you're going through a phase right now. So the last thing you want to do is also hold your friend accountable in their state. So what you're doing is actually just trying to pander to them so that whatever they did or however they tried in the relationship, it might be justifiable, blah, blah, blah. There's a whole lot of conversation going on there. Hence why I say it goes back down to most of the time when you're in a position of where you're going through a unforeseen or an inevitable breakup. Somebody's sitting there waiting to pull the trigger. It's either one or the other. She's either waiting for you to break up with her, or you're waiting to break up, or you're waiting for her to break up with you, so that they can be some type of fortress of victimization. So you can go out there and be like, she broke up with me. And you know how crazy it is. You know how sometimes we tend to side with the person who's been the one who's broken up with the victim. We tend to be like, oh man, so sorry. You know, like, hey, my bad, man. You know, you sympathize with them. You're like, oh, sorry. You're not necessarily sympathetic to the person who's doing the breaking up. You're like, oh wow, okay. Why? How? You ask questions. You're like, oh, okay. And then you kind of like,
Such a great person, though. Why
yeah,
would you?
yeah. You kind of take a step back. You're like, okay, all right, sure, cool. What's your plan now? You know what I mean? As opposed, like I said, with the victim, you kind of sympathize with them in some way. You're in a position where you're trying to cheer them up, make them lift up their spirits, get back into the normal, frame of things in their life that they always have been. It's things like that. It's a whole big dynamic. Yeah. I'm not surprised.
No, we agree. We agree.
Any
Oh, yeah, sorry, actually. So Chloe, we didn't actually get the answer there. At that point where the woman slowly disconnects, is there hope, or what exactly, why does she do that? I don't remember the answer.
So yeah, at that point, yeah, there's still hope. If she's still there, there's still hope. But she's probably waiting, like, bearing in mind that's assuming she's probably complained or told you what her complaint or issue is. And then if she stops discussing it, that means she's just waiting for you to see it. Oh yeah, she's biding her time. But if you would change it and address the issue, then yeah, there's still hope.
What is the hope though? Because if a guy pushes, that's when you'll get the "I need my space" text message.
Girls don't always mean it literally. If she says she needs her space, it means you need to try hard.
You see.
No.
It means no.
Okay,
There's no,
sometimes
I
no.
hear no.
Sometimes genuinely. Sometimes
Now there's
genuinely.
generallys and kind of sort of maybe. No means no. She needs a space. She needs a space, manga.
Okay, so fair enough. If she says she needs a space, it means either try harder or maybe she needs a day, but after that day or so or whatever, try harder. But usually, I need my space means try harder.
But
maybe she
that
needs
is gaslighting, guys. That is gaslighting.
Can I ask?
All need is.
And I believe you when you say there is hope, but is there hope after the fact? Because remember one thing is that there's never hope at that time when that person is making a decision. Then they're stuck and they're set in their way. They know their decision is done. It's over. 3 weeks later, I miss you. I want to come back home. Now, Okay, so now that's why I say, is it home during the time or after the fact?
It depends on how deep the issue is, isn't it? Like you can't compare to, oh, you've not made time, or or you're really been not putting enough effort the past long time. Can't compare that to when someone's blatantly showing disrespect. So, it just depends on how deep it is, how deep the issue is, and how long it's been ongoing. How long have you actually had to rectify this situation? It just depends on how long that is.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, the other thing I don't like, I get, sorry, it's gonna seem like I'm going after Chloe over here, but I'm not. We actually good. so it's like, because this is the second time. The second time I find an issue with what she's saying, and I'm just like, So I'm not going after you,
Okay.
please, respectfully. But I'm just like, I'm not a fan. Okay, let me bring it from my perspective, because it might seem like I'm speaking for everybody on the panel, right? So I happen to be a communicator, even by career. So part of the communication is like, you're taught to communicate openly and clearly. What you say is what you mean. What you mean is what you say. That's just the way it is. And so what irks me about, saying, if she says this, then what she really means is that. It's like, can't we have some consistent open communication? Isn't that like a sign of our maturity and us being older? Like, we're no longer in our teenage years anymore. We're not playing these, your crush sort of games where I say one thing, but I really mean the other. And I'm expecting you to just, telepathically read between the lines and know what I'm saying. It's like, it really, really messes with me. Like, I really want us to be mature and communicate openly. And that's a plea to every
No,
single
yeah,
woman in this too,
I get what you mean. I do get what you mean. I mean, well, that also, like I said, goes back to how deep the issue is. Then, yeah, maybe depending on the context and the situation, maybe she just needs a day. Maybe sometimes in some relationships, the person genuinely needs maybe a week or up to 2. So, I mean, I was just joking there. Well, there is truth to that statement, but I mean, yeah, on a serious note, it goes back to how serious the issue is, and how long the relationship is, and what the intentions are really. Because I've been there before where I genuinely needed a week, just clear my head, reassess myself, reassess the past communication. But like, I feel like if someone says they need the space, when it's genuine, you should be both communicating what the issues are, what changes need to be made. You should be both expressing them, because if one person's happy, most likely the other person's not 100% happy either. So I feel it's up to both people to communicate that. You agree on how, a week or 2. I mean, if you say you need more space than a couple of weeks, I think that there's something that's not being said there. Then there may be something really serious if you need more than a week or 2 space. So yeah, I think that can be a mature and healthy thing to do. But like I said, it only is actually going to work if both people have expressed what they're actually unhappy with or what they want to change going forward.
Yeah. Ben, yeah.
Sorry, Martin, there. I just need to burst that bubble, because with women, that's a myth to say that it's juvenile or puppy love things where women don't actually express themselves or speak directly. Like, that thing carries on all the way through. Like, there's no set age where women is just going to outright tell you, hey, listen, A, B, C, and D. That's the greatest disconnect between males and females. That men are from Mars, women are from Venus. Like, women are emotional, which in turn also limits their ability to express themselves in a logical way. Whereas men can express themselves like logically. We tend to want to fix things, where women more Like I'd say women want to feel things and they want their feelings
Yeah.
to be corrected. And then that's where the frustration comes in because she can just wake up one day not feeling her best for whatever reason. And then you're just going to run around in circles, driving yourself crazy, trying to figure it out. And she won't tell you. Like the answer is simple. She could literally say, like, no, I stubbed my foot yesterday. I'm feeling grumpy. But like because she's feeling a certain way in that moment, that inhibits her from being able to express that at that time.
I have to object there. I feel like
Okay.
the issue
on.
isn't about us being in our feelings. I feel like the issue is women aren't always, it depends on the woman, and if she's ever in her life felt safe to express her needs and desires. That's what it boils down to. It's not.
Yeah, because again, and I completely
Safe
agree
or
with you.
comfortable?
Both.
Uh-huh.
Both.
Sorry, Matt.
Yeah, because I
And
was also
whether
going
or not they're ignored, because sometimes, yeah, you can feel safe, but you've just grown up to feel totally ignored when you're expressing to your desires, feelings, or thoughts. So it's not just safety, it's do you feel you'll actually be heard? And also in your relationship, have you actually made her feel she is heard? So yeah, that's another myth. It's not that we can't express ourselves logically.
Yeah. And I mean, again, then I completely agree with you because kind of relationship more than. Can you hear me, Fonzo? Were you gonna say something?
Yeah. No,
We can hear you now.
We can hear you now. You're cutting a bit there. Go on, man.
Okay. Yeah. Sorry about that. So yeah, as I was just saying, I completely agree with Ben because yes, there are quite a number of women who are like that, who they genuinely, they lean more towards the emotive side more than just logically, and expressing is not something that they feel, I guess, the capability or even the pressure to do. But at the same time, as Chloe has just said, I do believe that there can be an element of communication, even though it's not more immediate. Because I understand what you're saying. As men, we feel something, we say it straight, immediately. And we're going to express ourselves eloquently. We're not going to go two ways about it. It's going to be straight, right? That's great. But okay, perhaps on the woman's side, she needs time to process, feel, and emote. And that's great. We can do that. But, even after that period, however long it is, communicate, like come out with your written statement and submit the statement for public review, right? Don't, because I feel like if we keep on saying, okay, this is emotion, keep it inside, and you'll figure it out later on, then we're enabling a lot of very toxic behavior where she's literally feeling something and then she's going to keep it inside and not tell you, or even challenge herself to learn how to communicate even in the midst of safety, or whatever the case may be. So it's valid what you're saying, but I feel like it's valid to a certain degree, and I don't necessarily think it lets the fairest sex off of communication, just the idea of opening up and saying exactly what the problem is and not hopping around or painting fantasies. And again, I refer back to teenage years because that's where it's so common for me. We got to grow up at some point, respectfully.
And also, not all communication means it's productive or healthy.
True.
So
True.
that's another thing that goes both ways. Like if you feel like you're the communicator in your relationship and you feel like you're not getting much back, assess how are you actually communicating. Maybe it's not effective, maybe it's actually not productive or positive in any way for both people. Maybe the way you communicate and express things needs to also be adjusted.
I wanted to add to what Chloe and Martin were saying, that and actually, like Chloe hit the nail on the head, like no, not all communication is productive, right? It's about like the way we package messages, the way we connect with each other. And one thing that a lot of relationships don't do is they don't establish the things that are fundamental to the relationship and things that are just uncomfortable or things that like just irritate you, but they're not a fundamental thing, right? And a lot of the time, what happens is the one party will think whatever they're doing or whatever they're saying just makes the person uncomfortable, but it's not fundamental to the relationship, right? So, like a practical example is you think leaving out your shoes every day is not a big deal, but then to them, because a clean home is a crucial thing for them, and it's something that they value, and it's one of their like personal principles, it is a big deal to them, right? And now, when they come at you, they come from a point of attack, which is not obviously, it's not, it's not a communication, it's not a form of communication that works well with you, which means even if you do stop doing something, you're not doing it because you want to do it, it's because you just want to keep the peace, right? So, what I'm saying is, you've got to come to a point where you actually map out, as Chloe is saying, map out as a couple. This is what's important to me. These are the crucial things to me. This is why I don't like this thing. This is why I react this way. This is why I communicate to you like this. Can we work on this stuff so that it doesn't keep coming up? Because then that's when you actually make real progress, right? Then you'll be able to differentiate between, okay, actually, maybe they're not nagging. This is actually something that means a lot to them, right? This is actually a fundamental thing, because we're so quick to say, GBV is clear, cheating is clear. We know those things are taboo, but we don't want to face what's taboo to the individual as well. There are things that are only taboo to your partner, So yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Proper, yeah.
Right. Yeah, any last thoughts on this one? So we can proceed to the next section.
No, good.
And Fonzo, what about you? I'd like to hear your closing thoughts on it.
Look, so like in a nutshell, I just think like as everyone said, it always depends on the individual. As you say, there are different aspects to a human being that you're dealing with. You're not just dealing with a woman, you're dealing with a human being, and vice versa. So definitely it is within one interest if you really are in a position where you'd like to keep that relationship going. It's always good to seek good advice. And advice from the right people, not just anybody. If you feel that your brother or sister can't even keep a relationship proper, I don't advise you go to them for any advice. But at the same time, it's always essential to also look within oneself. Take heed of what you're doing, take heed of what the other person is doing, take accountability so you yourself can be free to hold the other person accountable too. That's where it starts. Breakups can be they're very broad and dynamic. There's different circumstances for everybody. So there's not one clear path that shows you a way to resolving things. But sometimes you just need to take your L. Sometimes when it's a done deal, take your L and move on. But also move on gracefully, move on to the next level. Hopefully you can be better. Be better within yourself that you're okay, so that the next situation can at least be much easier, more cooperative. Okay, so yeah, next portion. So now here's another question. Point blank period. Let's talk about this. Is it always wise or a wise idea to date your exes in the same circles? Is it always? What's your thoughts on that one, guys? Is it a wise decision? I'll repeat, ne? Is it okay to sleep or date exes within your circles? So,
I would say a hard no for that.
Yeah, right. Okay. Elaborate.
Okay, but why?
Yeah, elaborate. Yeah, so Give us your viewpoint, your thoughts.
Well, kind of piggybacking off what we discussed earlier is like when we're talking about like one person moving on to a whole new relationship, especially if it's a short space of time, it kind of gives the impression, at least, that something was definitely happening before. So, you know, when you think about like the necessary conversations and interactions someone would need to have in order to want to entertain that, it makes you wonder at what point was it happening during your relationship when afterwards now these two people are starting to link up. It's like, hang on a minute, when did this communication start taking place now? Because you know what I mean. It just looks suspect. You get me?
Yeah, and I completely agree. It's like similar to moving on after 2 weeks, which I said something was cooking before that 2 weeks happened. If you move on, if you move on to my friend, something was definitely cooking before that stuff happened. Granted, if perhaps, you know, again, these are exceptional situations. I don't think they happen every time, everywhere. But granted, say 5 years down the line, you guys start dating. Maybe then, depending on who you are, we can say, okay, this was not immediate, right? Maybe we broke
Okay,
up and then
that's a good point. I agree with
yeah,
that. Yeah.
exactly,
I've
right?
actually
It's
been
like,
in a situation with that. I've
Go
been in a
on, tell me the
situation like
story.
that where I was like briefly dating some chick, and I think like maybe how many years later? It must have been maybe like 6 years later or something like that. We had like mutual friends, and then they would talk like through Facebook, like they would share and comment on statuses, and then you know, like when you comment on statuses, there's a back and forth, and then you see that, oh, okay, this person and I, we see eye to eye on a lot of things. Then it evolves into inboxes and whatnot. So in this case, at least what made it cool was that he came up to me and asked me, he's like, hey man, like, was there something happening between the two of you? I heard that there was a situation, so I just wanted to find out from you. From that point, I was like, oh no, cool. You know, this doesn't sound like it's coming like, and it also like wasn't something I was like completely in the dark, because like we would like all like kind of like have conversations on like posts and statuses and all that sort of stuff like that. So I was aware that there was communication, but when he brought it up to me and explained it to me that way, I was like, no, cool. You know, it was like 6 years ago. It was brief anyways. You know, if you guys are vibing, then you can go for it. Cool. But I think that's also a necessary component, that someone between there needs to come up to you and say, look, this has been happening. I want to know. If you just find out of the blue, it's like, oh, the both of you. Both of you are suspects.
And perhaps
that's pretty bad.
yeah, and perhaps Fonzo, that halfway answers the question. When is it ever acceptable to date exes within the same circle? If the ex or the other ex says, hey, yeah, I'm okay, go for it. Right? If there's a mutual conversation, a mature conversation too, between you and I, you know, as to your ex, and I'm just like, yo, listen, we've been talking, she's been coming to me for advice, and you know, one thing is leading to another right now as far as our feelings are concerned. Would it be okay if I did this? And if you say no, then fine, I'll back off for the sake of the friendship. Of course, other gents won't quite, you know, handle the no right, but well, it is what it is. Yeah. Bo, you want to say something?
Martin, I just want to tell you how tricky people can be. People can be so tricky. They can be so sly. They can be a lot. And I'm going to tell you why. I'm going to give you a personal perspective, right? So I'm giving you premium content here.
Let's go.
So this very thing that you're talking about, Martin, of a person actively saying, nah, it's all good. It's all good. Go ahead. Happened to me, right? Okay. Coincidentally, yeah, wifey and this person who said it's okay, it's all good, were friends, right? And she said the very same thing to her friend when the time came that, obviously there was vibing going on and whatever. So she's like, okay, before things get too serious, let me chat to my friend. Let's see if this is cool. And bear in mind, y'all don't look at me scandalously. I see you. So bear in mind, things have been over, right, with the friend, like between me and the friend, right? And like a whole lot of funny things had been going on that she had been up to as well. So yeah, but anyway, so now she speaks to the friend. The friend's like, no, it's all good. It's all good. And then when she sees that things actually are getting serious, girl turns around. She's like, nah, this is actually not cool. You know what? I'm cutting ties. We're not friends anymore. Go do your thing. And, sadly to this day, they're not friends anymore, right? So just answering your question, like people are tricky, Martin. A person can honestly to your face say, it's all good, it's fine, date, it's whatever.
Yeah.
But then
maybe she hadn't realized her own feelings inside herself. Maybe she hadn't deeped her own feelings. I feel like I don't think that was malicious. I feel she probably hadn't deeped her feelings. And it was just
like she could have said, like she could have said in the moment. And I completely agree with what you're saying, Bo. People are very, very tricky. Trust me, I know. But she could have said, yeah, cool, go for it. Again, out of that conceptual, hey, I've moved on, it's cool. Why would I go back to my own vomit, so to speak, right? But then as time goes on, she realizes, nah, I still like that vomit, right? Or I'm not okay with the idea of you picking up my vomit. Like, that's my vomit. You should still.
Just analogy, though.
Why vomit?
Yeah, Martin.
I'm sorry.
I thought you were cool, right? I'm vomiting.
You're okay. For lack of better terms, you know what I'm saying? Vomit.
What about leftovers? What happened to that? Wasn't leftovers a thing?
Hey, Martin, it's fine, bro. I thought you were
okay, right. Yo, Ben, leftovers is just as worse, but okay. Yeah,
No, I would totally eat leftover pizza.
You're trying to save yourself, Martin.
I've never had vomit before.
Spilled milk.
Yes. That's savage. I've never had vomit before.
Never.
Okay, no. I'm just saying, there are people who are going to vibe with what I'm saying as far as vomit is concerned, because there are some people whose cut-off game is strong. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, the Bible even says, why would a dog go back to its own vomit? Like, you know what I'm saying? So I'm just saying, like, for the people whose cut-off game is strong, it ain't leftovers, it ain't spilled milk, it ain't the past or X, for example. It's vomit. It's like, yo, nah. That's from me. Like, don't go back and clean up after me. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, I can't say it myself. It's too late now.
You can't. I've seen it. I've seen, like you said.
I think I need to dip, yo.
Nah, we good, bro. We good. We still friends.
But with what Bo said is so crucial, because keeps can be tricky. And how it's dealt with, it can be very, it depends on how the person reacts to it, right? So I've seen this happen in HD. I've seen this happen not to me, but I've seen it happen to like a Google circle of friends. It's happened twice in the same circle. You get what I'm saying? And funny enough, in the same circle, the guy was a family member to the other guy. So that even made it even worse. The other one, it was a friend of 17, 18 years. These guys are homies, and obviously, he went through a breakup with the shorty, and she went immediately to the friend. Look, I cannot be mad at them, You cannot be in a place of judgment because till this day, those relationships are working out. They're still there. You understand what I'm saying? They still till this. It's been years now. So I mean, it really also, you know, it varies from person to person, you know, but still more. It did taint a relationship between the two people who initially had relationships themselves, the family members, the friendship of 18 years. That's a lot to throw away. You know what I mean? That's a lot to lose, you know, and thank God most parties are processing what the other party is processing well till this day he's good, you know, but it's not a nice, it leaves a bad taste as opposed to just being honest, being for real in the group and say, guys, this is what's happening, this is the situation. Because especially when you're in a group of people with such a large number, people make their own deliberations and they have their own viewpoints about how they perceive that person. The one who dogs the one and the one who's the victim. We'll have our own preferences of who we choose to side with. But, you know, that's the moral capacity. I'm not saying that because they have a good relationships or their relationships are working out till this day, it makes it okay. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying is that, you know, we, as human beings, you know, it's something that's irreparable. A friendship like that is irreparable. I think it's a big no for me. Yeah, taking into account depending on how many years later or whatever the case may be, who cares? If I'm married with kids and then you decide to date Annie, who I used to date, go for it, do your thing. I don't really, I'm good. So, but you know, nonetheless, it's very easy in theory, but definitely, as I'm talking on a guy's perspective here, men, we are very territorial in some way. You know, we tend to be territorial, regardless of whether this is a part of you or not. It's still something that you had a grasp on. So when you had something on, you know what I mean? Yeah, you know what I mean? You're very territorial regardless. So, you know, why are you guys laughing? So it does happen.
Hence I said my vomit. But carry on.
I'm Martin.
No. Let it go. Let it go.
Yeah, let's let it go.
Let it go. It's fine.
But guys, can we also look at the other perspective? Because for me, it's largely like a yes. Like me, it's fine. Like I don't see anything wrong with it, provided that everyone is respected and like things were, you know, as legitimate as things can be where feelings are concerned. Put yourself in the position of someone who actually, now you, that guy that developed feelings for, like, let's flip the script and see if we can empathize with the other side. Because I mean, we don't bash, right? Like we're here to talk and understand. So let's understand. Like if you're on the other side, let's say you know, and your homeboy and homegirl, like she's consulted with you and he's treated her a type of way and you guys click better. She just happened to meet him first. But essentially, like you guys are the better fit, like whatever, quote unquote. Then what do you do from that perspective? Like, is it, and guys, this is not personal scripture, hey? Like this is just
take your L and move. Take your L and acknowledge.
Guys, also like, I just want to say, like, in practice, it's also hard, man. Like, if you think about it, in practice, like remaining friends and also knowing that now your friend is with whoever, like, it's hard because what do you guys like really talk about? Like I'm just imagining those conversations, you know, like your friend now wants to open up about their new partner and they want to obviously talk about the normal stuff that you guys used to talk about, but now it's going to be awkward because like that person was their partner, you know? So like, you can't really, like you have to hold back now. Like you can't say, this is what we did during our date last week. This is, you know, these are the dynamics in the bedroom. Like, you see, that's where it becomes hard. You know,
best believe, my brother. Best believe you're the last person on their list of go-to people. You're the last person. So I think that's something to also acknowledge. And they know you're there, but you're the last person. You're not, you know, because you know everything.
This guy's like, what happens? Like, oh, she loves it when you tickle her like on the left side of her belly. And then he's like, oh, yeah. Oh, sorry, I mean, like that. But I mean, that's the
conversation awkward.
Why is that awkward though? Like, it's just a conversation. Like, that's as far as it gets. Does it get any worse than that?
I don't know, man. It's because I can't see myself having that kind of conversation with my boys. Like, you know, if we ever had like common relationships, like it's just nah, man. I don't know. But like also with guys, I guess it's easier because like we can talk about surface level things, whatever. You know, yes, you know, get her that lingerie. She likes that lingerie. That like, you know, and you're not gonna be like you're not gonna be in your feelings.
What do you mean? If you dated my ex, then I'm telling you, like,
okay, Ben,
like,
I wouldn't be in my feelings.
No, you have to say
I
that.
wouldn't be like, nigga, I'll go
Obviously.
shopping with you. Like, I'll even
put
go
it in
shopping
practice
with you.
already.
Hold on. Here's something that's interesting now. Remember earlier on, we talked about how from one relationship to the next, people's criteria may change. What if at that particular time, she was experimenting with lingerie and whatever? Now, when you want to try it, she no longer does that stuff for you. Is that not going to backfire?
I mean,
Hey, Fonzo, I want to hear your thing. If I remember correctly, remember last week? Was it last week? No, there was a podcast I was watching actually where Fonzo was like, no, but how can you deny me? But you gave homeboy XYZ.
absolutely.
There was a podcast with you and the lady.
Absolutely.
Hey, so Fonzo, please, I want to hear your opinion. I want to hear.
I'm telling you, you'll stop going to that guy for advice ASAP. You don't want to hear any more stories.
Yes, wasn't the topic about marriage and sex before marriage?
Yeah.
And you're like, but how can you had a kid with this guy, but you want to deny me? Like, how can you? So how can you do what you did with that guy, and now you want to like? What do you think, Fonzo?
Fonzo
wants to answer for now. Yeah, go on.
Definitely, it's like it's weird to go if I say, for example, I'm with Manga, and then there's a shorty that I used to date, and he's like, no, I want to go lingerie shopping or whatever. So now I'm in the position where, yo, man, she like that red one, man. She go crazy over that red. That's weird, bro. It's like, okay, why are you telling me? Like, you'd be like weirded out, like, dude, come on now. Like, I would have to be like, I'm going to the shop quickly. I'll see you when you're done. You know what I mean?
Did you make sure to get the red one?
You know, make sure you get the red one. Like that. You gotta see that for yourself. But when it comes back to criteria change, it's definitely something that you have to take note of as well, because of course, whatever she might have gone through or he might have gone through in the relationship previous, he changes the criteria. So of course, that's also kind of a bit of a detriment, especially with somebody who's had sex before and they had sex with somebody and they got a kid, and then all of a sudden she's going through a 90-day rule. Like, it doesn't make sense. You know what I mean? You didn't give the 90-day rule.
But she grew.
Oh my gosh, 90 days is not that long.
Why would you do that now? Why would you change the 90 days now, but you had like 20 days back then? Just saying. It's for the lack of a better example.
But then,
so listen.
This does tie into, because remember the original topic was combined, and then now we separated it. The original topic was, is it okay to date your homie's ex? And if so, how long? What is the grace period? So this is where the grace period, I think, comes in. Because that ex, if it's like a year or 2-3 years ago, that was a completely different person. You now can't still say like, no, X, Y, and Z, like but if it's more recent, like up to 6 months or whatever, as long as the human psyche can hold and vividly remember, then that's a bit of a problem. And if that person also hasn't had enough time to grow.
Yeah.
So I don't know, man. The monkey bar thing, that's hectic, because I mean it's raw, it's fresh, it's vivid.
It's like borderline dating a rebound person. You're dating a person for rebound.
Yeah, she still has the same haircut she had with me, man. Like, come on, bro.
Like, it makes sense. You know?
She hasn't even grown new hair. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's all I gotta say about that, though. But I mean, essentially, it's a difficult one. The like context is always important to me. Like I think, look, I'm not gonna be like, yay. I'll be like, do what you gotta do, homie. But just know that there are consequences to these type of things. There are things that you will take note. That other person didn't take note of. There are benefits, there are good things, but know why you're there and be sure about it. Don't do it because you feel some type of way. Do it because you're sure about it. That's all I gotta say. You know, if you're doing it just for the sake of in your last school, then do your thing, but just be clear with that person. So it's a tough one, man. It's never clear cut these situations, bro. But for one, I don't. But for one, I don't personally. For me, I don't advise it for anybody to live in circles. Kind of takes away the magic.
So if you fell for your ex's, like let's say you fell for your ex's, well, your partner's ex, well, sorry, your homie's ex, would you then discard those feelings and then squash them and get over them? Or would you actually act on them? Would you do the gentleman thing and fall on your own sword?
As I said, there's a lot of repercussions when it comes to that. So, you know, so there's a lot of damage you could cause. There's a lot of, you know, if you're looking out for just your gratification, then you're the one who worries about you, then do it. But if you're that type of person, you know, it takes other people's feelings into consideration, you're, you know, just aware, you know, then.
So where does the guilt or where does the fault start? Does it start with the feelings or getting to that point, or does it start when you're actually acting on them? Is there fault? Is there fault to be measured? And where does it start?
Man, I think, so, hey, we're not bad. Whose show is this, bro? So anyway.
Sorry.
I like, no, man, there's not necessary, you know, I don't know, like it's generally when you act on it, you know, when you act on it, you know, act on those emotions and those feelings, that's when the issues fan, you know, not necessarily issues in the fan per se, but you get what I mean. That's when it starts to open up.
No way, cheers.
Got you. Guys are crazy. Any last thoughts, guys, before we close up today? Any last thoughts about the Chloe? You've been quiet. You've been hitting spy games on us. You were spy games.
Well, that one's tricky. Personally, to overview, I just think it's one thing, for example, if you went out with someone in your early days, like teens, under 21, and then like 5 years later, over 25 as mature people, then the two people are brought together. That's one thing. But I mean, when you're like older already and it's like from one relationship to the next, that's a problem. If there's been several years and several relationships, or maybe not several, but a relationship or two in between, that's different. You've matured into different people, you're over it, that's another story. So in that context, like if it's like 5 years down the line and like it's from young to like now mature, that's different because you were two totally different lifetimes. But when it's like, okay, my ex-fiance is now engaged to, that's another story. Do you know what I mean? When it's like, and in terms of like, even if you have the feelings, I don't think it's a problem. It's human nature. You can't control your feelings, but you decide on your actions you take. So that's my stance on that.
Yeah.
Moral of the story, they have to have at least one haircut change in between.
Yeah. There was a post I saw on Facebook. There was a post I saw on Facebook of a lady who was a bridesmaid at her best friend's wedding. Not long after, she was the bride to the same man that married. So she got married to the same dude, but awkward. So what do you say about situations like that?
Who's gonna be her bridesmaid now?
Ooh, the next in line. the next in line. Next victim.
See, that one's too deep for me. That one's a bit probably too deep.
Crazy, yeah.
Like, and also when you say circle, it's you have your circle as in your network and you have your inner circle. Like, I can't see it happening with girlfriends that I would go to the house or they would come to mine. If I just know them because, oh, I know them from this place or work or something external, that I wouldn't give two rat's monkeys about. But if it was my inner circle, that's when it's like it's not worth the drama. Especially if it's within that same lifetime. If it's from childhood, teenage years to now you're 25 plus, I don't think anyone should be that bothered. But yeah, if it's all in this as grown like engagements to both sides, that's when it's obviously that's too techy. I've seen it play out and it's never worth it.
Yeah. And I think that probably leads me to my final thought or concluding thoughts. This is probably, I think of all the topics we've covered, and there have been some very complicated and tricky ones, this is probably one of the trickiest. Like a banana peel just waiting for you to step on. And I pray that most people don't step on that banana peel, because the nature of relationships, whether you are serious or committed or you're just there for fun or whatever the case may be, but the nature of relationships is they are emotional. You can't exclude your emotions from it. And the deeper you get, the deeper the emotions are going to be invested. And so, to dip your emotions, in a certain relationship and then end that relationship for better or for worse, and then have somebody who is within your circle who, mind you, you're also connected to emotionally. It may not be as deep as a love, romance, that sort of thing, but if you have years with this person, if you know what they like, what they don't like if they've had your back and you've had theirs, then the idea of them getting with your former partner, again, even if you say by mouth you're okay with it, it can still be a lot to carry on the heart. And so it's a banana peel. And I pray that none of us step onto it. I pray that those who are watching don't step into it as well, because it can be very, very tricky. Even if you conceptualize it and think that, but if I plan step A, step 2, step 3, and I talk to him and this and that, like it can work. Like as both said, people are tricky. People are tricky, and people are very inconsistent too. Need I remind you of that, right? So yeah, it's a tricky one as a final thought for me. I wouldn't do it.
What say you, Pam?
Yeah, final thought for me is I also just personally wouldn't do it. I just always have the mindset that, you know what, like we live on a very big planet. Like there's more fish in the sea. Like there's no need to try and cause drama to try and see if we can negotiate with this person. Would they be okay with it? I'm like, there's plenty more out there. Or at least that's the attitude that I have. So it's a thought I don't even entertain. I mean, I do have some friends who, like they've got like some good quality girlfriends and like, she looks like a solid one. But for me, it's not a thing of like, in the back of my mind is that thought of, I wish it was me. Like, nah, it's like, like here is an example of somebody who has the traits and qualities. Now I must go out there and find my own person. I don't have this thing of like, if I can just wait just a couple of years and
that's hectic. That's another topic now.
Yeah. People are like that.
Looking out your curtain, bro, like shit.
Bro, when you guys break up, they'll be the first ones to pat you on the back, like, you know what? I didn't see you guys working out anyways.
That's hectic.
Yeah. And can I also add one more thing to what Manga was saying? And I think it's a thought that's just come up right now. I should have probably included it in my roundup. People are especially in a relational sense, and this is where people are tricky, bro. People really like, love, are passionate about, or are drawn to whatever you want to go with it. But people like the idea of getting the one that is outside of their reach. Or maybe let me put it this way: people like
Forbidden
testing
fruit.
their reach. Like I know I can't get this person because hey, this person is the ex of my best friend. But let me just see, like my adventurous spirit, my adventurous side. Let me just see if I reach out, will I actually get it, or will it not work out? You know, I feel like it's the same reason why people go after married people. Is like they really, it's a bit of an egotistical thing as well associated with it, where it's like, yo, I want to see how good am I. Do I really got the game to go to a married person and say, yo, 1, 2, 3, and then they're with me. You get what I'm saying? So either way, it's not right. It really, really isn't. Don't envy what somebody else has to the point of going after it, even if it's not, you know, theirs anymore per se. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Then, you go in. No? Then, so what say you, Tam? Are you lost it?
Yeah, no, for me it was just a think piece. So like I don't sway particularly deep in either direction. But for me, I don't really see the problem with it. As long as like context wise, everyone is respected and it's organic and it's not like premeditated or anything nasty like that. But yeah, otherwise, I mean, it's whatever. I just, we're just, conversing.
For sure. Cool. Oh, are you good?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with everybody. I think, yeah, I mean, like exactly what Ben said, that as long as everyone's respected and everyone knows where they stand, then yeah, I mean, it's not a big deal. Like everyone, like, yeah, everyone should just know, how to communicate how they feel about something and be genuine about it. If you're not being genuine, then that's something that you need to face within yourself. You need to say like, okay, look, I may say something's okay, but in my heart, maybe I don't mean it. So that's more on you than it is on the other people. So I think, yeah, people just need to be ready to face whatever's going on inside them and not do things as a means of playing chess with people's lives, as Martin is implying that, you're doing something because you think you don't know if you can do it, or you want to challenge yourself, or whatever it is. Like at the end of the day, these are people's lives. So stop playing chess with people's lives. Just interrogate yourself and see how you feel about something, and then act in the best interest of other people, basically.
True.
All right. Yeah, man, thank you guys. No, this was proper. Like Martin said, one of the toughest or trickiest conversations one can have when it comes to this topic. Hopefully, as time goes, we can come back to it and have a more deeper dynamic of it. You know what I mean? But it was good nonetheless. But yeah, guys, I want to thank every one of you. Manga, thank you for making the debut appearance. It's always good to have you. Hopefully, we can have you maybe here. So yeah, always good to have you, man. Always good. Bo, Ben, Martin, bless you guys, yeah. But yeah, guys, we will keep going, and I hope to see you guys soon. As in the following, yeah. I'll see you guys soon, and all right, you guys have a good evening, yeah. It's still early right now, So Ben, are you still going out with your jacket? Always looking fresh, boy. Huh?
No, man, I came back with the jacket. I came back.
You came back with the jacket.
I came back. Yeah, no, that's me for the night.
All right, for sure, man. I'll catch you guys later. All right, we'll have a chat, yeah? Peace.
All right.
Cool stuff.
Peace, thanks, guys.
Bye.
All right.
All right, bye.